Okay, wonderful. Welcome everybody to day 4 of our wellness webinars. You know me by now, Chantal, and I'm really excited to introduce to you, for those of you that don't know, our fearless leader, my faithful friend, research extraordinaire, essential oil master, and wonderfully faithful mother and teacher. This is Carrie Donegan. She's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing in many ways. She has just completely nurtured me along the path. And so what I know as a result, in large part due to her. So she rescued me tonight. I got a chance to go out and take a glimpse at my sweet little baby, do an ultrasound today. And that was a joy, but it put a little bit of a cramp in my schedule. So Carrie stepped up to the plate, and she's going to present largely tonight on our topic on respiratory health. And we were both just taking our moment in preparation. What did you use, Carrie?
I actually used Balance. I was just looking for it. I've been using Balance. I have Balance next to me. I have some Ylang-Ylang next to me right now. And of course, I've been taking internally my Copaiba and some Melissa. So those are kind of my go-tos right now.
Yeah, let's see. I pulled out Breathe and
Wild Orange. Ooh, Wild Orange. Nice.
Lovely. So,
love.
Yeah, let's see what else I've got sitting around. Ooh, I've got Hinoki.
Ooh, I love that. That Japanese cedar. Yeah.
On Guard.
Yeah.
Yep. I still have some holiday joy lingering. I actually need to put that away, but yeah, so it's kind of fun. It's always interesting to see what people have in their arsenal right around them. So
excellent. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to go ahead and start our screen share this evening, and we're going to dive in. For all of you following on Facebook, thank you again for inviting your friends to the community. We still have one more webinar tomorrow night to conclude this series anyway. And so I welcome you inviting and extending and out, bringing people to our community. It's really important that we share the word, not only currently because there's so much stress and anxiety and concern over wellness, but in general, it's such a worthy mission. And so I thank you for sharing that. And before I forget, I wanted to also make sure that for those of you that do enroll as members of doTERRA, you have access to an exclusive group as well. And that's one that Carrie helps moderate, and she teaches daily. So if you're already a member and you're not a member of Essential Conversation, let us know. And if you are thinking of becoming a member, add that to the multiple benefits that we've been talking about all week. So, all right, with no further ado, let's dive in, shall we? So,
okay.
There we are.
So good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope to impart some really solid knowledge tonight so that you can empower yourself and your families into better health and wellness, especially during this time where there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of concerns and trepidation, and we want to be able to alleviate that so that you can confidently support your families. And of course, one of the targeted areas that is in the news right now and a big source of conversation, of course, is your respiratory system. And I really love this picture of the lung next to this canopy of a tree. And it really shows you that God's creation was very intentional, and it has lots of symbols and relations. And, you know, if we just learn about the plants, there are all these hidden gems inside. So I just really love this beautiful picture because oils that come from trees have so many benefits to our respiratory system. We're going to see more about that tonight. Next slide. Thanks. So let's talk about your lungs, right? If we're talking about the respiratory system, most of us are thinking about our lungs more than anything else. But in fact, the respiratory system encompasses much more than that. It starts all the way from your nasal cavity, all the way into your bronchioles, into your lungs. And then, of course, the fact that there is this beautiful dance and this exchange that happens between your respiratory system and your cardiovascular system. We're going to get into that a little bit more as we go on tonight. But the lungs specifically are responsible for bringing oxygen into your body and then transferring that oxygen into the bloodstream. The lungs also release carbon dioxide collected from the bloodstream and remove that from the body when we exhale. And of course, we know that the trees rely on this much needed carbon dioxide to create photosynthesis and for them to grow and thrive. And so there's this beautiful relationship that human beings and plants have between the air that we exchange. So it's a key element of health, and we can't really minimize it. It's so very vital and important. Next slide, please. So looking at the role our lungs play is really important. It's key because it's affected by everything we breathe. And I really mean absolutely everything, from pathogens, which include germs of all kinds, smoke, dust, and of course, those very hot, famous viruses that are in the news today. So for example, a virus, when it enters through the respiratory system, the first thing it's going to do is it looks for a host, right? It actually enters your body, and it cannot live alone. It needs to have something to attach itself to and grow on. So next slide. So that's one of the reasons why we want to actually create an environment within your respiratory system that is not welcoming to a virus. And we can do that with a lot of different essential oils. Our lungs, in fact, are protected by a thick mucous membrane and a special immune cells, right? Because remember, the respiratory system is one of three parts of your immune system. The three parts being your skin, your lungs, or your respiratory system, I should say, and your digestive system. So we're really honing in tonight just on the respiratory aspect of the immune system. And we go deeper and we really see that there are so many different layers of protection that your body has. One key layer being the thick mucous membrane and these very special immune cells that attack any toxin, all right? Any toxin that enters past your filtration system. So what's that? That's in the nose and the mouth, those little hairs, right? Everything that lines everything we breathe through. And at different stages, there are filtering and there's collecting of some of these toxins. Now, having essential oils present in your respiratory tract and in your lungs specifically will help to support that immune response. Now, I wanted to dial into this photograph because it talks about cystic fibrosis, but if you're following the health reports in the news about this particular virus, or really any immune response that, like pneumonia or anything that attacks the lungs, what you see is that the thickening of this mucus starts to happen. And in so doing, it cuts off airflow. And in addition, what they're finding is there's a bit of a fibrosis of that tissue. You have to think of your lungs not as balloons, but as sponges. And those sponges will expand as air is breathed in, and they contract and push out air as they contract and as we exhale. So if these lungs are not free and clear to actually filter and collect and exchange that flow of air, we really are seeing a very, very shortness of breath. And if you know anyone who's ever struggled with any kind of respiratory challenge, especially a pneumonia, the one thing they'll say is, I don't feel like I'm getting enough air. I don't feel like I can take a full breath. And these are some of the similar things we're hearing from patients who are struggling, with particular viruses right now at the moment. Next slide. So how do we keep our filtration system strong? We have to have some kind of detox mechanism. And, we can do that naturally through some of the foods that we eat, certainly drinking a lot of water. I cannot stress enough the key thing about drinking water at this particular time. Doctors, everyone has been saying it. Please, please don't discount the importance of drinking water. And I would say throw a little lemon in it, throw a little grapefruit in your water. It's going to be so much better. But we have some tools to help you detoxify, especially the Zendocrine Detoxification Complex. So I really want to draw your attention to that white bottle. It is an herbal complex. It's specifically designed to help support the strength of your organs, including your lungs. And so when you use the Zendocrine in the black cap and the oil itself, you're going to pull lots of toxins out of the body. That's great. But then you have to have something really strong come in and support the lung tissue as well. So this would be a great regimen to start if you don't do this on a regular basis. I actually have my Zendocrine right here next to my computer because I want to remind myself to take this a couple of times during the day, because I understand how important it is to make sure that our lungs are always free and clear. Next slide, please. So I thought this was a really important bit of information to impart too, because as that mucus is building up, when there's too much mucus building up, and that mucus just builds up because it's trying to keep up with the number of pathogens that it's dealing with, and it can almost choke. You can literally almost choke from all of the mucus. So it's important that we keep it at a mild level, and we want to create a productive cough. We want to get all of that mucus with the toxins out of the lungs. I know it's not a pretty subject, but it's really, really key when it comes to breathing. But look at this array of essential oils that can create an anti-catarrhal property. So within these essential oils, they have the ability to create a productive cough, right? To break down mucus and to expel it from your body. So everything from the ones we might imagine, things like peppermint and eucalyptus, not surprising, maybe even oregano and thyme, because in basil, they're all in the mint family, as is rosemary. When we see those beautiful mints, we know that we have that power. But it may be surprising to you to see some of the tree oils like frankincense and myrrh. Maybe some of the other plant oils. There's also there's white fir in there, but actually we have Siberian fir now, which is an ingestible, great tree oil that you can use. Helichrysum is a flower. Clove bud, very, very strong on the ORAC scale in terms of its antioxidant effect. So you can pick any of these. You can apply them to your chest. You can take these internally, and they will start to break down that mucus. My top picks would be Siberian fir, clove, myrrh, and frankincense. I would apply them and inhale them 1 to 4 drops, I would say 3 to 5 times a day if you feel like you're getting some chest congestion. So how do we use these essential oils, and how do we see the benefit? I think it's important to understand that doTERRA is very much connected to the hard scientific studies that are bringing really essential oil into mainstream medicine. And it's important for us as consumers to really understand the science behind these essential oils so that we can confidently use them and share them with other people. So let's talk about what happens. The essential oils and the molecules are going to diffuse through your skin because they can gain access via a few different ways: the hair follicles, the sweat ducts, the sebaceous glands. And this is because they have a very small molecular weight. So if you were to take maybe a little olive oil and you were to drop it on the back of your hand, you could probably stare at that olive oil for maybe an hour, and you would not see it start to disappear into your hand. But in fact, if you were to take a drop of an essential oil and stare at it, probably within a few minutes, you would start to see that essential oil become absorbed through the skin. There's 2 reasons for that. One is the fact that it's lipophilic, which means that it likes fats. It's fat soluble, so they are going to join and pull into the fats of the skin. But also the fact that they are very, very tiny and they can go right into your skin is super important because it gets right into the bloodstream and goes to work at supporting your immunity. Next slide. So you can also be confident about inhaling these essential oils. So we know that the essential oils will also get carried into through the vapors, right, into our nose and mouth and into the respiratory tract, where they have a direct effect on the tissues. Okay, so the minute you inhale them, they're in connection with the tissues, go into the bloodstream, and they're starting to work on your cells. Next slide. So let's look at the dance, this beautiful relationship that the lungs and the respiratory system have with our circulatory system. as the molecules of these essential oils are absorbed through your respiratory tract, they end up at the alveoli, where they are easily transported into the bloodstream. So at that moment where you have those little sacs, so at the end of the beautiful kind of array of lung that goes through the lung, you're going to see at the end, this is where those capillaries deliver that oxygen and deliver the essential oil into the bloodstream through the hemoglobin, and it goes right into your circulatory system. And this, I think this is a super cool picture, but but probably if you saw it in real life, you'd go, ew. But what this is called nasal epithelium, and it is very thick and it's full of extensive capillaries, and it allows rapid access to the circulation. So this is that moment of exchange where the oxygen and the essential oils can go into the bloodstream and then get carried through. Next. So let's talk about doTERRA's famous Breathe blend. And it really is, I would say, one of the most perfect blends when it comes to good respiratory support. It has melaleuca, which is an antiviral, which is wonderful. It has eucalyptus, also antiviral, but also really good at expanding the lungs, opening the airways. Peppermint, it only takes your first experience with peppermint to know that you're getting to breathe more clearly. You can feel it almost in your eyes, right? You wake up the minute you put peppermint in your mouth. Lemon is going to detoxify. Remember, just because we support something doesn't mean we don't have to get rid of the bad stuff. So those toxins have to get taken out of the body. Ravensara, also really good, very close to eucalyptus in its effect, but also a little stronger in its antiviral properties. And then we have cardamom. Cardamom is a beautiful oil, especially if you have children that are very young, under the age of 4. I would say even more than Breathe, you want to have a bottle of cardamom. Cardamom is one of those unique essential oils, unique botanicals that has so much power, but it's absolutely gentle and mild. So you can take cardamom and actually put it on a baby's chest, and it's fine. You can put it on their little feet. It's not going to have a stinging feel to it. It's not going to have an overwhelming menthol to it. It's just very gentle and mild, but wow, so powerful in its ability to open up airways, help with breathing, and even for some kind of seasonal threat, because that's another thing that we're coming into, right? We're going out of flu season and into allergy season. So who knows why we can't breathe, right? It could be a myriad of lots of different things. People are worried about this when it's just hay fever. Like it really, things could be everything. So we just have to be supportive of our respiratory system and not worry so much about, you know, what exactly is acting upon it. As long as we're constantly cleansing and supporting, we're going to be, you know, in much better situation. So the results of, oh, sorry, go ahead. That's fine.
Yep.
I just want to back up one other things. I wanted to talk a little bit about what happens. So the result of the process of affecting the tissues in the respiratory system results in making the mucus thinner, right? So that's what the essential oils are going to do. They're going to make them thinner, and that's going to aid in the expectorant factor of it. It also reduces inflammation. So that's what we want. And these subtle but far-reaching effects on the metabolic activity. So now the way we process things in our body can actually be acted upon. Our mood can be acted upon by essential oils, and also something called the microbiome, which I thought was fascinating. So next slide. What is the microbiome? Well, actually, the microbiome, although it looks kind of pretty in this picture, is all of the pathogens and the germs, the good ones and the bad ones, that live in and on our bodies, right? So we think we're going around our house and we're cleaning off doorknobs and we're cleaning off our cell phones and all the germs are going away. When in fact, do you realize we have 5 pounds of pathogens that live on and in us? I mean, it's sort of an amazing thing. And we didn't really discover this, literally this universe, I'm going to call it, until the mid 1990s. So this is a new discovery in science. Very, very exciting. Harvard does a lot of studies on the microbiome. If you're into that, you may want to take a look at some of that reading. I found it fascinating. But if you look at the human microbiome, there's over 1 trillion microorganisms that live in and on us, some good, some bad. And they outnumber our human cells 10 to 1. So we're all, they're like living on us. It says the genetic material of these microbiomes, including bacteria, fungi, protozoas, and viruses, live on and in our bodies. The number of genes in all the microbes in one person's microbiome is 200 times the number of genes in the human genome. So there's like a whole universe that's going on inside of our bodies. And it's all about balance, right? We don't fall into sickness if we are strong enough to keep all of the pathogens in check. But the minute they outnumber us, or they get to be too strong, or the bad ones become too powerful, that's when we fall sick. Next. So how much of the essential oil is actually absorbed? Because I get this all the time. How much should I take, and how long should I diffuse? And people want numbers, right? We want to understand what it is we're supposed to be doing to get the best benefit. So unfortunately, what I have to share with you is it really depends on the oil. It's not a clear cut across the board thing. All plants are not alike. All humans are not alike. So there isn't a number that I can give you, but I can tell you a couple of things about some studies that I looked into. One study showed that the pulmonary uptake of D-limonene, which is a compound found in lots of different essential oils, including grapefruit and lemon and different cypress and things like that, were approximately 70%. So when you breathed it in, you were able to absorb 70% of what you're breathing. But when you exhaled, you only actually released 1%. So that's good. That says to us that we're actually absorbing a lot. And another study said that in your blood, if you looked at the concentration of something like 1.8 cineol during prolonged inhalation. Now, I can't stress this enough. I see people do this all the time. So I just want to clarify what inhalation should look like. I'll have people who say, I put some oil on my hand, and then I rub my hands together, and I breathe it in, and then I go back to work, right? I'm doing whatever I'm doing. And not that that's a bad thing. However, when you look at the science, what science says is that you don't get peak concentration in your plasma until you've inhaled the essential oil for 18 minutes. So that is a great case for diffusion, right? Because as much as I'd like to think I have the patience to sit here for 18 minutes, I can guarantee you that will probably never happen. So having a diffuser sitting next to me at work, or in my kitchen while I'm cooking, or in my living room while my kids are studying is so important, or in my bedroom at night. That's an easy way to get your 18 minutes of diffusion, is just by putting it next to you while you're sleeping, when you're reading, when you're stationary, and keeping it as close to you as possible is going to really help too. Next. So this leads us to the next really cool part of science, which is an area of science called pharmacokinetics, which also is related to pharmacodynamics, which just talks about the way essential oils or any other chemical works in the body. And we do pharmacokinetics with drugs all the time. But no other company has stepped into the science of pharmacokinetics with essential oils. This is groundbreaking. No other company in the world does this, only doTERRA, because doTERRA wants to be your healthcare company. You know, they want to partner with you in wellness and in healthcare. That's why they've started their line of clinics with MDs, right, and complementary medicine people, giving you the full scope of what healthcare has to offer you. We want you to have lots of choices and lots of good resources. So what do pharmacokinetics study? Things like absorption, right? How much it enters your bloodstream. Distribution, how that works through the fluids and tissues in the body. Metabolism, how that transforms within the body. When people think of metabolism, they think of how fast you're going to lose weight, but that's not what metabolism means. Metabolism means that you have a process within your body that changes something, and then there's a byproduct to it. And then the last thing, of course, is excretion, because everything that we use, we do have to remove eventually. Otherwise we would be, like one big mass. So that's part of it too. So how much do we absorb? Where does it get distributed? How does it change things in our body? How does it change our cells? How do different reactions work based on, inhaling essential oils or applying essential oils or ingesting them? And then how do we remove them if we don't use the whole thing? And that's the study that we're going into. So next. So I'll let Chantal take it from here.
So first of all, thank you so much. Isn't she amazing? It's wonderful to have someone of her caliber on our team. This is not the privilege of every doTERRA community. And I just wanted to emphasize that for you all, because I do feel really privileged to have Carrie as our leader, and I hope that you'll lean into her. Again, go to the Essential Conversation page. If you are a doTERRA member, you have access to that and you get a lot more of her. So I wanted to just very quickly kind of summarize for you Carrie's presentation tonight with some really practical tools. So these are the takeaways, right? You need a diffuser, and you need to have a collection of particular oils that you're rotating through. Purify happens to be shown here. It's a blend that's very purifying for the air and great for aromas and so forth. We have our Tri-Ease soft gel blends. These are particular products that doTERRA has comprised for us for internal consumption that supports the respiratory system. So this is lemon, lavender, and peppermint. I wanted to, again, highlight Breathe and the full line, because right now I have I'm just a raving fan of the Breathe stick. It's a gel that's been solidified and that has that respiratory blend in it for kids, and honestly, pairing them together, applying Breathe on the chest and then the Breathe vapor stick over top provides a barrier so that you have longer lasting impact, and it holds that oil there. It's Vicks in a stick kind of thing. The respiratory drops are also helpful in opening the airways. So if you haven't explored these tools, these are things that I highly recommend that you have on hand in stock, because when you get sick, you don't have time to order. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how many times, how many times people go, oh, do you have any of that right now? And I'm like, you live, 5 days for me. Even if I do, it doesn't help you, right? Like these are the things you want to have on hand, and in multiples, because once you do get sick, and remembering that 18-hour or 18-minute principle and how much time and product you need to use when you're sick in order to meet that kind of demand for the body. We mentioned these as we went through. So Douglas fir and eucalyptus. One that I wanted to talk about, and Carrie, maybe you can even highlight a little bit more, is kind of a new player in the game, and that's black spruce. Oh, yeah. It has some potential for deeper reach in the lungs. Is that correct? Right. So the big player in lung oils is black spruce, because it's the only one that we've been able to see that can get all the way to the bottom lobe of the lung. So most of them go pretty far, but not all the way to the bottom. And I think that's going to be a key oil with people with breathing. So imagine that one sitting on the slide there. I didn't add it because honestly, I'm just like, we're rolling and finding the new pictures and images and stuff. It's always challenging to keep up with the curve. Cardamom, as she mentioned, we love that for especially little ones and the ease of use. This was a magnificent oil for my family when we went through whooping cough. Oh, okay. So cardamom was huge, and especially because I had kids of all ages, this was a big player. Peppermint, of course, being strong, just be conscientious of that, but everybody needs peppermint. Yeah. Thyme and oregano, definitely for antibacterial purposes. These herbs, again, as we talked about in one of our earlier presentations, have high concentration of the phenols. Those are going to be those warming, intense properties. So use these carefully. They need to either be diluted if you're putting them direct on the skin, or consumed through a capsule. And then our citruses, which we really, really doted on last night for emotional support, have a similar playing space here. Of course, they're uplifters, they're antidepressants, but we use them in many ways, like she said, as detoxifiers and for helping to be expectorants for our body. I'm going to put this on the... oh, that's fun. I'm going to put this on the webpage tonight, the Facebook page for you all, so you can take this home with you and you can begin to explore some different respiratory blends. And then I wanted to just give you, lastly, this is probably my number one go-to recommendation when people are dealing with sinus congestion or other kind of respiratory challenges, is to have a cup full of hot, steamy water. And this is 1 to 2 drops, and I've honestly ratcheted it down because it's so strong. So 1 drop is enough to start. But if you have really blocked sinuses, then you might up it to 2 drops. And you're going to just place those oils in the water, and you're going to have like a little dish towel. And I always recommend, don't drape it over your whole head, just drape it over your nose and mouth, or you're going to just absolutely be miserable and your eyes are going to sting and burn. Some people show this picture of them all in a little vapor tent. The vapor tent only needs to be over this part of it.
Right. Very smart. Very smart. Yeah.
And it might take a minute when you start inhaling the vapors of that. You might be like, whoa, hold on. But again, 18 minutes of that deep inhalation is going to be a powerful game changer for you. So if you have difficulty remembering this, I should have rearranged the order, but I always call it PLOM. P-L-O-M. So peppermint, lemon, melaleuca, and oregano. However you spell plum, P-L-O-M. Anyway, you got it. So that's what I wanted to share with you tonight in conclusion, just to kind of give you those practical takeaways from all the beautiful, rich science that Carrie unloaded for us tonight. And I wanted to remind you that doTERRA has announced 20% off enrollment kits through the end of the month. So I know that we have a number of friends with us who are thinking, I need to get started, but it's a tough season. I understand. A lot of people are not sure exactly what the next couple of weeks or months are going to hold. I would recommend that you take advantage of this if it's within your ability to do so. And besides the 20% off, we have the Diamond Club promotion. Okay, so anybody who spends 100 PV, they walk away with Citrus Bliss, which again, we highlighted so much last night, or 300 PV, they can have the Adapted and the Citrus Bliss, our huge emotional oil support team there. And I hope that you can, just let me know. The way in which we take advantage of this is you have to reach out to me prior to enrollment. So you have to let me know ahead of time so I can give you the right code to process it with. Of course, most of you know that I love to just hear from you through a phone call, and we'll talk about your particular needs, discuss what's the right point for you to start with, and I'll take care of all the particulars so that you get your freebies. And then lastly, if you start with an order this month and you choose at least 1 month next month on our loyalty program, we're going to also offer you some deeper tools for your continued education and ongoing support. So that's exciting. And that concludes my slideshow. Hey, we did really good, Carrie. We should do this often. Good on our time.
I love this.
So let me go ahead and stop the share. I'm just going to scroll here through the Facebook page for a minute, you guys. So if you have questions, I want to definitely see those questions pop up on the screen so that we can answer them. And of course, I like to hang around afterwards. I'll just be perusing the Facebook page for a little bit so that you can ask your questions. If you want to be part of the giveaway, we've done first day was peppermint, second day was melaleuca, third day was wild orange, and today we're going to do, of course, who could not, right?
Great. Yeah.
So very appropriate, a bottle of Breathe. So in order to earn or potentially be put in the drawing for that, you need to post in the Facebook page something you learned. So make it pertinent to tonight's webinar, something you learned from tonight's webinar. And then you'll be added to the drawing. And all of those fun things are going to happen tomorrow night. So I'm keeping you all on the hook. See how this works? You have to come back in order to find out. Sneaky. So if you have questions, post them and we'll get to them, and make sure that you watch the video back if you need to go figure out something to put in the takeaway, and share with your friends, invite them for tomorrow night so that we can have kind of our grand finale event tomorrow night talking about sleep. After that, I think I will.
Yes.
Carrie, do you have any other concluding thoughts for us before we let you go?
No, my only hope is that you'll share. I think we have a world that needs a lot of support and friendship and healing, and our little essential oils can do so much to just give people that sense of calm, that sense of that they have some control. So
it's remarkably rewarding. I can't tell you how special it is to be in a position in a time of crisis, to be considered someone people turn to and want to lean into. And I think that that's a unique position that we're in. And, you know, there are seasons where you don't necessarily need that as much, but this happens to be one of those, and we're here for you. And many, many people are looking. In conclusion, I just see a couple of posts coming through. Okay, so if you need to get a hold of me, you can private message me on Facebook. You can send me a message, just like I see Denise, you mentioned you want to talk about getting started. So I'll follow up with you. Many of you are on my email list. If you're not on my email list, you should go to the website chantal-howard.com, and you can sign up for my email list that way so that you're constantly getting updated. And then we're going to be concocting another lineup of support through March and into April so that this ongoing education will continue. Welcome your thoughts, your contributions, and would love to have all of you active in our community. So be posting away. Wonderful. Thanks, Carrie, so much for your example.
All right. So. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks again.